Yep.
Yep.
Okay. My name is Jilles Groenendijk. I'm a hardware hacker. This sounds like an AA meeting. It feels a little bit like it. I started streaming as of the beginning of the COVID breakout because my wife told me to do so. She was watching live vlogs about fashion and tinkering, and told me to do the same. And in these streams, I tear stuff apart and I build stuff like domotic sensors, laser communication, my own cellular phone. So these are the links where you can find the stuff. Yeah, I will not take personal responsibility for your own actions. Obey the law. Don't get in trouble. Don't get in trouble. Be responsible. There's a law 138 AB. You might want to read it if you are working on security. So hacking is not a crime. It was part of the logos that were in there. Yeah, this is about hacking. What is hacking actually? So mostly hacking is portrayed as someone evil breaking stuff. Well, for me, it is like tinkering with stuff. See if you can make it do something else. So like, for instance, I have a light that I bought at the Aldi. And this now has like a sensor. Let me see if I can shut down my background. No idea where to do that. Hold on. Okay. I'm going to try it anyway. So as soon as a malicious actor is in the vicinity, this will light up and show as a pineapple. And this is like a remark to the Wi-Fi pineapple. That is a device that allows you to hack wireless networks. So yeah, I like altering stuff, but yeah, at the same time, you need to be responsible with what you do. So if you are able to open something, if you're able to find a exploit and you put it online without telling the vendor about the issues with the device, that's not good. So one of the examples is one of my sons. I have two twin boys, Jelle and Jurre. They're going to university right now. And Jurre actually hacked his school. So there's a small documentary, 5-minute documentary on YouTube. So if you search for Jurre and hack, you will find his story, how he hacked his school, but not without having written approval upfront. And another thing that I do is I am one of the coaches of the HackRight project, which is a project where juveniles that are first offenders that are going rogue are being helped on the good path. And yeah, I had like 4 or 5 of these kids and helped them see the change in life, so that they're not having issues with their entire career and hopefully are not returning to the evil path again. So to become a hardware hacker, you need to code, you need to hack. So coding is something that I do, and can be like a really low level, being assembly. It could be Python, could be shell scripting. And another thing is you need to know the exploits. So playing CTF games really helps, like Certified Secure, Hack the Box, that kind of stuff. And also tinkering. So create your own projects with Raspberry Pis, with Arduinos, ESP32s. And these are some of the examples that I do. I like to go to Comic-Con And one of the television shows that I watch is Stranger Things. And in Stranger Things, there's like a wall where Joyce communicates with her kids using this Ouija board. And I run into someone holding up a board with a Christmas lighting on it. And I asked her, the lady, if it was interactive. It was not. So I ordered an ESP8266, created a piece of software, and you could connect to the board and make it blink whatever text that you want to do. I already showed the pineapple. Another thing is I have been teaching kids in elementary school for 4 years. And one of the things that we did was like teach them the different ways of calculating using decimal, hexadecimal, octal numeric systems. And we did that using a LED board. So they had to give me like hexadecimal values to create their own drawing. The one in the bottom center is my Raspberry Pi cluster. This is my old one, and I have a new one as well, the Turing Pi, and this is a board that consists of 7 Raspberry Pi compute modules, 3B+, and it allows you to learn orchestration, Kubernetes, Ansible, that kind of stuff. So that allows you to train on stuff without actually having cloud access or get up to speed. And it's also good for hosting your own like CTFs or bringing stuff to a customer, for instance. And the one in the top middle is a demonstration that I did where I hacked a electronic lock by drilling a hole in the side, attaching 2 wires to it, listening to the communication from the touch panel to the backend, and brute forcing it. For the tool, I'm part of Tool, the open organization of lockpickers, and these are people that do pen testing on physical security. So for my work, I work at Deloitte. I work in the blue team, so I'm doing monitoring on SIEM solutions. I help customers improve their hardware security by reviewing it and tearing it apart as if I were a malicious actor. So yeah, really have to think like a thug there. And another thing that I do since like 1.5 years is create gadgets for the red team. So I'm building stuff to help the red team get a footprint on a company, get access to the network, like the devices that they can hide. And that can be like a mouse that holds a computer. So one day you go in as a cleaner, you take the mouse, next day you replace it, or you look at the mouse, you buy a similar mouse, and then you replace it with one that also hosts a device that would inject keystrokes, or that would spin up a access point or whatever. And depending on the customer, we create different gadgets. And usually it's for high target, high profile customers like banks. So for me, hardware security felt a little bit like the software security in the 80s. So people trust that the devices are closed, and most of the people did security tests like to the outside of the boxes, like connecting to Wi-Fi, connecting to the Ethernet port, but not opening up the boxes. But you see that now people have access to those boxes, or have an access point, and that access point is replaced by a new model. People tear it apart and find vulnerabilities and use these vulnerabilities against a large number of clients or users that will cause like serious issues. And it is hard as a tinkerer, as an IoT creator, to come up with like a secure solution, because if you are working on secure solutions, you will add more time to the launch, you will add less battery life, you will increase the cost. Yeah, you have to keep track of all kind of different things, and you can implement security in different ways. You can buy like a solid crypto chip, but you can also obfuscate data using an XOR function. But if you now would be able to go to the thrift shop and buy a device to tinker with, it's usually opening the device, connecting 3 wires, pressing Ctrl+C, and you're in. And you're able to do yeah, all kind of stuff that you're not supposed to. So I'm hoping for like a change of mind in people that are developing these products. So the products that really come to market to be more secure, as that will protect all of us. So there are some issues. A lot of devices come with default passwords, and there's a lot of sites that will host like the default password list for the different devices. But there's also Shodan, and I hope that you already know Shodan. Shodan is like the Google of refrigerators. So you type in the vendor, you type in like a device, and it will just show up. I found 3 nuclear plants, or I found this special medical device, or this insulin pump that is connected to the internet. And people are able to attack these devices. So yeah, be careful what you connect to the internet. And most of the time you don't even know yourself that you're connecting it to it, because a vendor would just say this device will only work if you enable UPnP, and the UPnP protocol will open up your firewall to make a direct connection to the internet. So if I'm testing hardware, it's usually about taking pictures. Sorry. So I take a picture of the closed box. I take a picture of the product that's inside the box. From different sites, I'm taking the device out, taking pictures of the circuit board, like the green thing. And then I look for devices that are on these boards. So there's a lot of devices on here. There's like a coil and connectors, but I'm usually interested in devices that will contain data. And devices that contain data are usually the black chips that are on there. So if you zoom in, you will see like square ones, you will see smaller ones, you will see rectangular ones. And it is easy to know what actually contains data. So most of the time you will see the square ones containing the logic. So that's either a microcontroller, a processor, an FPGA, a Wi-Fi chip, yeah, anything that brings logic. Could also contain memory, but yeah, this is usually not where the crown jewels are. There's rectangular chips on the side, on the left side, with pins on the short side. That's actually where the file system is. So this is the flash storage. So you can compare this to a USB stick or SSD card or an SD card. And there's also rectangular chips with pins on the long side, and that contains the volatile memory. So whenever you turn off the device, the data will go. Not really, it will go over time, but this is not where the data is. So if I get a new device, the RAM memory is empty. There's also other devices. So the smaller ones are the EEPROMs, and the EEPROMs might contain serial number, settings, configuration information. So those are very interesting as well. And you will see that by having a chip that starts with 24, 25, 93, it's like a couple of numbers. Usually it's 24 and 25, and those are the different protocols. So the one is communicating via I2C, and the other one via SPI, is 2 serial protocols. And for all the devices, like if you would open up a traffic light installation, you would run into the EEPROMs, and these are devices that have a glass window, and that allows you to erase them using light, while the EEPROM is electrically erasable, so you don't have to use light. So if I look at the data that's on the chip itself, like the serial numbers and the model numbers, I can find PDFs online, the datasheets, and those are usually very large files, 600-700 pages, that will tell you everything that you want to know. Will tell you the operational conditions, so this will work on 20 volt, on 3.3 volt, or will work under 20 Celsius. So it could be an attack to underpower or overpower the chip to see if you can like create a flaw. But this also contains like the pins that you use to program or extract or exfiltrate the data from these chips. So that's really valuable. Sometimes you don't even need to open a device. So this is, for instance, a Lego brick. It's the EV3. So on the bottom is the chip with the 0984 underneath. And that contains a number, an FCC ID, and all the devices that are being used in America that are using radio frequency, so it could be like a Zigbee, Z-Wave, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, whatever, have to be tested through the FCC. So you have to submit the information about this is tested in this cage of Faraday, these are the circuit boards, these are the manuals. And if you just search for the FCC ID, you will actually find the circuit board. So if you have a device, just look it up. fcc.io is the website. So yeah, if you go short, there's like a few steps that you can do to defeat the security on a hardware device. That's connecting like to the console port, the serial port of a device, using a device called an FTDI. FTDI is actually a brand name, but this allows you to create a serial port on your computer and communicate with a device on a low level level. So you will see all kind of information allowing you to log in and showing information about the version number and the settings and all that kind of stuff. And then second one is the JTAG, and JTAG is Joint Task Action Group, which is a protocol that allows you to provision the device. So it's set up for manufacturers to add software to the device, but if this is configured incorrectly, and that has to do with fuse bits. So if the fuse bits are not set correctly, you're able to exfiltrate the data and exfiltrate the intellectual property from the device, so you're able to read it. You could also read the communication between two devices. So if there's like a EEPROM inside and a microcontroller, you could use a logic analyzer to read the communication between those two devices. And sometimes I'm just lazy and I use a heat gun and take off the chip and dump the contents of the chip. And like in most of the instances of the devices that I've seen, all the data is not encrypted at rest. So what I would like to see is people that create hardware have your data encrypted in transit and have your data encrypted at rest. So if the device is off, you cannot use it unless you're able to decrypt it. And one of the last thing is doing introduction of faults, like altering the clock, the temperature, the light, magnetic, radiation, anything. And these are some examples of it. So it's like using acid to take off the housing of the chip, listening to the frequency nearby, listening to the signals, the electronic usage of the device, injecting power, shortcutting power to be able to do that. But these are very complex attacks, and in most of the cases you don't even need those. So it would be good if you would need those to hack it, because that would make it harder for like simple hobbyists to hack it. But yeah, in most of the cases, like the easier attacks using UART, using JTAG is enough to hack a device. So like for the JTAG, you need to like probe the circuit board. You need a multimeter for that. You need to connect the wires. You need like the Dupont cables on the bottom left. Maybe you need some special crocodile clamps on the right, and you need the FTDI to convert the levels of the chips inside the device to the level of your computer. So for under 15 euros, you're able to hack a device as a starter. So this is like simple devices. There's an unroll thread. It's like a thread that I made of a box that I carry around that holds a soldering iron, oscilloscope, logic analyzer, that kind of stuff. That will take you to that specific page. So if you take a picture of this one, then you will be able to go there. And I will share the presentation afterward as well. And the last one is something when people say, Jilles, stop spending my money. This is a PDF that you can find online. If you search for Git hardware hacking toolkit on Google, you will come up with a JADOX 666, the hardware hacking toolkit page. And this will contain gadgets for blue team, gadgets for red team, gadgets for tinkerers. So this is like tiny USB hubs, tiny micro computers, Raspberry Pi, circuit boards, whatever. This is like 600-700 pages of very cool stuff. So that's something that you might like as well. I want to make it short so that you are able to interact and ask questions or share whatever you want. So this concludes my short presentation. Usually it's 3.5 hours. I cut it back to the amount of time that we use now. So
thank you so much. You got me exhausted from the speed with which you led us through the whole story. And you made a conclusion that for around 14 euro, I can hack most hardware.
Yeah, at least the older ones.
Yeah, I think it's quite shocking that all this information is stored encrypted, and you also had other advices or requests that you would like to make to the hardware makers.
Yeah.
Is there any, apart from doing this in talks, educating people?
I do this for customers as well.
Sorry?
I do this for customers as well. So if a customer comes in with a hardware hacking request to test their product or a product that they use in their network. So imagine that someone installs like a smart light, and that smart light works on Wi-Fi, and it's put in the device everywhere, and they have like a flat network, and they're using the same network for their cash registers, for the POS systems as for their lighting. They throw away a light bulb, and that light bulb will reveal the password that's used to connect to the Wi-Fi. So someone like me comes and does some dumpster diving, takes off the device, takes off the chip, reads out the chip, uses a laptop to connect to the computer, and breaks in. This is not something that is supposed to happen. So that has a number of flaws, like you should have a segregated network where your IoT is in a different network and is considered not trusted. And also the connection to your network should not be using a simple password, and the data on the chip containing those passwords should be encrypted. So it's like a number of things. Like,
could you stop sharing in the meantime?
Sorry. Oh yeah, sure. I will.
And, in some way.
I have a question for Gilles.
Yeah, fire.
I don't know how we're going to do questions, but.
Oh no, we're doing questions now. I always use the opportunity to start myself. But as Gilles said, and I put it in the chat already, feel free to unmute because he really likes the interaction.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I also like that.
Gilles, you mentioned that all the program on the flash should be encrypted, preferably. But of course, you also want a device that just starts up when you plug it in.
Yeah.
So you need to decrypt the flash, and for that you need to store the key somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
How would you do that on an ESP8266 or ESP32 without extra hardware?
That's very hard.
That's why no one does it.
Yeah,
that's
why no one does it. Yeah.
For those,
it depends on the usage. So if you have like a simple sensor network where you use ESP8266 and you're using Tasmota and you're connecting all your stuff to gather all the information, then probably the data not being encrypted on the ESP8266 is not the issue, but the open MQTT that you're using is the issue. So it depends. So there should be a different kind of hardware security for HSM that creates secure keys for PIN transactions than for something that is able to collect data from your house. But also I created like a domotic solution for my house to get up to speed on MQTT. And it turns out that my CO2 sensor and my temperature sensor and my humidity sensor and my all these sensors together will have like a very exact information about how many people are in that are in the room, and if someone is in the room. So it's like more of an alarm system and will give away information as well. I was on CCC this year virtually, and they had a talk about MQTT systems that were open, where people were even sharing medical records over MQTT, over open MQTT. So yes, yeah, but you're right. If you're doing ESP8266, it's hard. If you're doing ESP32, it's a little less hard, but yeah, you need different information. Like there is an STM chip that allows you to do hardware encryption, but still it requires a plain text key in a EEPROM. So I read that device. You can still have this as a solution as long as the key is different every time. So if you create one device and all the devices have the same key, then I can still use Shodan to attack like 100,000 devices.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm able to hack your device, you already have an issue if I can come to your house and get the device, but then you're the only one breached. But if you're reusing the same system for all your devices that are publicly on Shodan for whatever reason, then I'm able to hack them all.
Yeah. I think
good question.
IoT and security is a difficult thing.
Yeah.
Because it's you want small and energy conscious devices.
Yeah.
And as soon as you start using SSL, well, you can throw it down the drain.
Yeah. That's
why Apple's HomeKit is not so popular, because they demand high security.
Yeah.
And
50 euros a device.
Devices are not compatible with that, but they are very compatible with Alexa and Google because they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, Manon.
So there's an because Jaap also had a question, Gilles.
Sure. So I can imagine that the fact that many devices are not properly secure is not surprising to you. Which devices are the most interesting to you to open up? Which are the most fun or interesting.
From a criminal perspective or from a perspective?
It's well, I can imagine there's different devices that are interesting for different reasons.
Yeah, it's like I've seen my fair share of routers and switches and that kind of stuff. And if you want to have a look at it, just go to OpenWRT, as they will show you how to do that just step by step. But a couple of months ago, someone that was using this blood glucose sensor, which was like injected into your arm. And I got one and tore it apart, and it contained like an STM32 chip. And so like stuff that is new, medical stuff. I've been playing with cars. I've been playing with high security access system like access card systems, and even there where you have like the military grade cards like the MyFair Desfire solutions. It still comes down to configuration, because even those very secure systems that have their own HSM chip inside still need to be configured properly. Otherwise, it will still be Wiegand and sending their data over plain text over the cable. So I'm able to open a cable, just connect the ESP8266 and record all the data and replay the data, and I'm in. So new devices are cool. So basically, but yeah. Sorry?
I mean, you can go on till your pension, from what I hear now.
Well, actually, we have done some stuff, and we do the retest as well, or they have other companies do the retest. But I see that people that care really come up with cool stuff. And one of the solutions that you already can do is like use BGA chips. So it's a little harder for the hobbyists, as they tend to use like a pin through hole or SMD components. Like the BGA, yeah, you need different devices to do, and you're already making it harder for a lot of hobbyists.
So maybe one more question, if I may. So
yeah, sure.
Gilles, I have not been keeping up with your work lately, so that's my fault. But do you feel that things are getting better in this area? I mean, are manufacturers more conscious? Is this because we've been talking
the large
about...
players are as their reputation is at stake. So you've seen that some of the companies that do smart lighting had one key for all their systems. They no longer have that anymore, but there's still the stuff that you find at the Action and the stuff that you buy on AliExpress. I would not install it in a secure network, as that is usually the way that the red team is used to gain access to such a network.
Gilles, can I ask you a question as well?
Yeah, sure.
I would be interested, isn't there any regulations or changing attitude towards regulations, how these devices should be protected? Because it's not just about your and my personal security, it's also about the security of our society and as a whole. What's the development over there?
There's an IoT OWASP that aims for development solutions, and in different regions there's like regulations. I think in China they have a specific regulation on medical devices that need to apply to a certain standard. I think that there recently was one in parts of America regulated, but there's not such a thing as like a seal of approval of someone made responsible for the loss of a company. You will see like insurance companies offering solutions as you get breached through cybersecurity. But yeah, I think it would be a good idea to have such a regulation so that you, as a customer, you don't need to tear stuff apart to see how it works, to experience if it's good or not. Since for myself, whenever I do stuff with IoT, I really want to know how it works before I install it. I never trust stuff. So create your own network and yeah, just look at it as if it was rogue. So own network and do it like that. But that's not something that my mother or father or whatever would be able to do. So they just buy stuff, and maybe they buy an older model. There's no new firmware update and it's vulnerable. People get into the network. They ransomware their computer only because they bought something in good faith.
Yeah, yeah.
Good question.
Thank you for the answer.
Okay.
Other questions?
And if you have questions after this one, you can hit me up on Twitter, Jilles_com, or on email, jilles@jilles.com.
Yeah, here's Botten speaking. Might be a bit strange, childish question. Recently, I had a conversation with one friend of mine from Singapore. He studies hardware engineering specifically in the medical field. Yeah. And you know, I'm not sure whether you know, but there was a game recently released, a Cyberpunk, which was quite famous. And the question that currently he studies is actually how could some different hardware could be implemented as kind of a weapon, right, to enforce, for instance, policemen or soldiers into real life. A question to you, what do you think about this kind of topic regarding the enforcing the policemen and soldiers by involving hardware in their body, for instance, maybe put some armor under their skin in order to protect them during some specific fights? Still, the question might be a bit vague.
Already, if you look at, I don't know if you're familiar with PAN. So like LAN, WAN, DMZ, you also have PAN, and PAN is the network, personal area network, and that is the network of your body. So this exists for a long while, and it connects like your smart helmet if you are a soldier to the rest of your suit to make sure that that works. I've seen people, especially people in red team, using surgical implants, like having two different sensors in their tags in their fists, so they can either test if a card reader is a 125 kilohertz card reader or a 13 megahertz card reader. So someone comes in for a reconnaissance, and just by holding their hands to the card reader, they can feel or they can see or they can hear if it's a specific card reader, and can also have like different UIDs on their device. So they can also clone a special card to a chip that's implemented in their hands. Yeah, for me, I've actually been offered to try one of these. I don't mind having the implant. But what I'm worried about is like the technology proceeds at such a fast pace that these chips will be rendered useless in like a year or a couple of years. So you need to like start doing surgery on yourself, like for yeah.
For the updates.
For the updates, for different versions, for whatever. But there's it's not like from a shielding or policing or whatever, but yeah, there's a special community around adding sensors to your network, to your body, to become more cyber. Or
yeah, thanks for the response. And just maybe follow-up questions on that. Maybe what's sort of your perspective when people will become partially robots, partially not robots, but let's say a bit cyber in that sense? What a time frame for your side?
I had the discussion with a guy that I recently met from Japan, and actually, when you have the NFC chip implant and you're able to open your car using your hand, you're already cyber. So that's part of cybernetic already. So we think of cyber by having like these special titanium arms or having extra ears or whatever, but also the tiny things are part of you. So it's not I have a chip in my arm. No, I'm opening my car with my hand. So you consider it as part of yourself already.
I can think this is also a very good question maybe for you, Anouk, or is this something you will be talking about later? What's your take on this?
Yeah, I will be talking a little bit about the personal area network and sensors and body and all the things that have to do with that. So
sorry for taking that away.
No, you can do my lecture for me. No, that was interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. I think it came from 1995, the earliest mention of that. So it's been around for a while, and now it's becomes more recent because we are putting sensors on the body in what Jill said, especially for military and all of that stuff. So that's definitely interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I once had the opportunity to go to the Night of the Nerds at Nemo.
Oh, yeah.
And they had someone wearing a dress, and whenever someone was telling lies, the lady wearing the dress was like getting shocks.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
So as part of having
in this
honest conversations.
Era, I wonder who decides what's true or not.
Yeah.
I know, right? That's true. Yeah, it's maybe a lot of shocks. But yeah, we put Twitter.
Is there a last question for Gilles? Otherwise, I think maybe Anouk, you can take over. Anyone?
Well, maybe one follow-up, if I may. So I noticed that Jilles said that he doesn't want to have this stuff inside of his body because he's worried about the updates. But I noticed you are not saying that you don't want it because you are afraid that other people might do stuff with it. I mean, for instance, with electronic cars, right, smart cars, people are worried that someone else might take over and drive the car for you when they hack it. Is that not a concern for you?
Yeah, we already passed that stage as children are already buying cherry berries for €1,000 using the fingerprint of their daddies when they are asleep. So you don't actually need an implant for that, but yeah, I personally would not go for a discount on my car insurance when I have to install a special device into my car where someone is able to listen to my car. Not as much as I am worried about being spied on, but more like the communication in these devices is two-way, so people are able to push my brakes as well.
Thanks. It was really interesting. And a lot of work still needs to be done.
Yeah.
And you offered that if people are interested, but I think that's nicer to do physical maybe before summer, to do a real workshop for like 2-3
Go more
hours.
in depth, yeah.
Sorry?
Go more in depth.
To go more in depth, and I think we will take you on that. But thank you for now. It was really enlightening. I cannot give you a little present, but I'll send it to you. Cool. We have a small token from the SenseMakers community, which we like to share.